North Wilkesboro gets a points race. Chicagoland Speedway returns, and Dover has the All-Star race. Let's break down the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series schedule. Hello everybody, welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host Alex Lambert, and let's talk about the release of the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series schedule. Some serious headlines to talk about, some exciting things to look forward to in the new NASCAR season, and let's go ahead and get into it. We have a North Wilkesboro Cup race. We have a Chicagoland returning to the Cup Series, and then we have the Glen, New Hampshire moving up 2 off weeks. Let's go ahead and get into it. I have to start out with North Wilkesboro, right? This is a big one. I think this is exciting for fans. North Wilkesboro is now officially back, right? I've been saying, the All-Star race is a return, but on the stat sheet, to me, Jeff Gordon's still the last winner, right? In the 90s. The racetrack has still not had a race since 1996, I think, on the stat sheet, right? Yes, the All-Star race is a big event. Fans go to it. It is a race, but it's not like a statistical cup race, right? When you win that race, it doesn't get added or tallied to your total career wins. Now North Wilkesboro will 400 laps. Dale Jr. talked about, I saw where he posted a tweet earlier. It looks like this race will be on Sunday night. Said he's excited to commentate this race on Sunday night. That's good because the race is on July 19th. That would certainly be warm, but NASCAR returning to the hills of North Carolina, North Wilkesboro, one of those racetracks that has been in the NASCAR history forever, right? This was one of those racetracks on the first ever schedule. This was the first championship race. I don't know if it was really a championship race in 49, but in 1949, the first NASCAR Cup Series schedule was released, and North Wilkesboro was the final race, right? North Wilkesboro has a strong history in NASCAR. Glad to see NASCAR going back to its roots and going to North Wilkesboro for a cup race. It should be exciting to see this, right? Yes, I know the All-Star race is a race. I know it's a real event. I know it's kind of a big deal for some drivers, but a cup race, points race, I think is going to make it matter even more, and I think we've added something to the schedule by adding a North Wilkesboro and it'll be interesting to see with 40 cars or 36 to 40 cars on the racetrack how different the racing will be. Very excited to see a North Wilkesboro Cup race in 2026. That should be exciting. Now, it is at the expense of another racetrack, and that's going to be Dover, because now Dover will receive that All-Star race, and I think there are some concerns. So this is May 17th, NASCAR All-Star race at Dover. I haven't heard anything about, I've heard some fans chatting online about putting in temporary lights. Haven't heard anything official about that, but the track, Dover, does not have permanent lights at the facility, so that's certainly going to make sure that the race would probably be held on a Sunday during the day. That's kind of the opposite of what we've seen at the All-Stars. The All-Star race since the early 90s, since 92 actually, when they put in lights at Charlotte Motor Speedway, the All-Star race has been held at night. So now we're going to, I guess, hold this race during the day at a concrete mile track in Dover, Delaware. Not too sure how I feel about that. I don't think anyone's really too big a fan of this situation. I don't know if NASCAR had really many other options. I don't know what they're looking at in the future. Maybe we're going to rotate the All-Star race to different venues every year. But Dover having the All-Star race, I feel like, takes away from both Dover and a little bit away from the All-Star race, right? For one, if it's not run at night, I think that's kind of a downer. The All-Star race Sunday night, previously Saturday night, but lately Sunday night, under the lights, that was always kind of the All-Star race thing for the last 30-plus years. Doing it during the daytime could be a little bit different, a concrete racetrack. And Dover is, I heard Denny Hamlin mention this on his show a few weeks ago, maybe it was last week. Dover's like a long-run racetrack, right? You don't get good racing on short runs. It takes a while to rubber in the racetrack. We see this every year at Dover, the 400-lap Dover race. The racing gets better on the longer runs and closer, when rubber gets, sort of moved into that concrete, into that racetrack. So I do think it takes a little bit away from Dover. We're not going to see those long runs at Dover for at least 1 year. We're not going to see a points race at Dover for 1 year. A racetrack that's hosted a points race since the 1960s, I believe, maybe 69, but it's been a long time. We've been going to the Monster Mile at Dover for a long time. We had 2 races there. To have 0 points races, to me, just leaves kind of a hole in the schedule, in my opinion, right? I'm not saying it's a disastrous situation, but to go an entire year, at least 1 year, without a point Dover race, I think leaves a bit of a hole in the schedule. I like the variety of different racetracks and the skill set being on display that adds up to a championship all season long. And I feel like not having Dover as part of that, championship season It is a little bit of a takeaway from Dover. I'm not a big fan of this move. Not saying it's awful. It's just something I don't completely understand yet. We'll see what happens when we get to May 17th next year, how this race goes. You know, it could be a really good all-star race. I don't know. I'm not saying the race would be bad. I just feel like Dover's something that I want to see as a 400-lap, Sunday afternoon, regular Cup Series race in my mind, right? It doesn't mean it'll be bad as the all-star race. That's just what I typically would like to see. But anyway, a few interesting things to talk about. One thing that I love that I've been talking about for years on this show, Chicagoland Speedway makes its return. July 4th weekend on July 5th, NASCAR Cup Series will return to Chicagoland. Once again, this will be on a Sunday race. I'm not sure if this race will be at day or night. That has not been officially announced, or I have not seen that yet, where that race will be run during the day or night. But Chicagoland is a racetrack that's been wearing really good. It was a really good racetrack with the Gen 6 car. I think it'll be good on the next gen car. The next gen car tends to do good at these mile-and-a-half intermediate style racetracks. We're going to get one of those racetracks back, maybe the best one, Chicagoland. Chicagoland's interesting. It's almost like an entire circle, right? There's no really a straightaway at Chicagoland, which was something I always loved about the racetrack. I love the tire wear. I love the skill it took to get around Chicagoland, the different lines, the top, middle, and bottom groove you could use to run around that racetrack. I loved NASCAR Chicagoland. When they took it away, I was upset about that in 2020 due to COVID restrictions, and they never brought it back. Well, it's back on the schedule for at least 1 year, at least till they get the Chicago Street Race back. That should be exciting. Very excited for NASCAR's return to Chicagoland on July 4th weekend, too. That's a big deal. It's a big race for NASCAR and NASCAR's fans. NASCAR fans take that July 4th weekend very seriously. Where we go should be an important race date, and I think Chicagoland can fill that void, right? It's an oval, mile-and-a-half, should be a solid race. Not sure if that race will be, from what I've seen, not sure if that race is going to be a day or at night, but we'll see what happens when we get to it on July 5th. Might have to make one of those go-to races where I need to attend. But certainly those are like the three big moves for the new NASCAR schedule. A few other things in it. The Atlanta race in the summer will also be held at night. That was also reported by Bob Pockrass. That's important too. Iowa's still on the schedule. We were worried about that not being on the schedule. Richmond, Bristol, Daytona summer race. Those will be the Saturday night races, which is important to keep in mind. Also, Watkins Glen, New Hampshire have been moved, right? So New Hampshire no longer in the playoffs. That's now just before the cutoff race at Daytona. So a week before the regular season finale, New Hampshire moves out of the playoffs back to the summer. Don't really have an issue with that move. Something a bit strange, Watkins Glen being moved all the way to May 10th. That's a bit strange. Watkins Glen has typically always had the first week in August. That's kind of been the thing for Watkins Glen for decades. It went to September last year, which was a bit strange. It's moved back up now to the first week in August this year, and then back to May for at least 1 year next year in 2026. So interesting with that move, and we'll see what happens. Also, something to note, 2 off weeks this year, which is something we have not seen this year, and we have only seen on the Olympic years the last few years, right? So those were 2 off weeks in a row. We do get Easter Sunday off this year, which will be April the 5th. That Sunday will be the race. Will be the Sunday there's no race, and then later in the summer we get an off week on August the 2nd. So that first week in August will now be an off week on the NASCAR calendar. Certainly, I think that's good for the teams. I think the teams have kind of been vocal about the schedule being very, tight, very chaotic, as you have to keep going somewhere week to week to week. Maybe just an extra off week could help those teams out a lot with rest and getting things back on track. That's important. We'll see what happens with that moving forward. So I'm excited for the 2026 season. I want to note one thing. There have been reports of NBC Sports Network returning, right? I think there's been talk of NBC importing a all sports network on their, back on their platform instead of using USA solely. Well, the Daytona, this is the first one I've seen. It might be on other ones as well, but the Daytona post from the every racetrack's doing their own post on X and such to promote their own particular race. But I'm starting to see the NBC Sports Network logo reappear again, and that's something that I have not seen since that channel went away in 2021. So, I'm not saying that channel is coming back. I don't know what form it would come back in, but it looks like there could be a real possibility we get the NBC Sports Network back. That's just possible, right? I'm seeing that logo around again for the first time in a while. But that's it really all there is to discuss following the schedule release. Daytona's this Saturday night. That's exciting. Going to do a video about the Daytona race, of course. Now, it will be in a different place. I'm moving back to college, so I have to build a bit of a studio there in my college apartment, but I will not be doing any more videos here after today, so that's it for this place. But certainly exciting. I'm excited for the 2026 season already, just with this schedule. Obviously, the race in San Diego is big, and we'll see if the Chicago Street Race returns moving forward. But that's it, really, all there is to discuss, and of course, let's get rowdy.